Yes, guys, welcome back to the Natural Muscle Podcast. Today is episode 9, and today is going to be our first show review of the season, the first natural show. And both me and Finn attended. For the standard for a first time show as well. It's very exciting to kind of like get into the stint of the show season and what a first time show it was. So today is going to be purely based on a review of the show, some standout athletes, covering all classes. And we'll just go through the running order of how the actual show went. But yeah, I just want to say as well, a massive shout out to UKDFBA for putting on a mega show, and also for NBW who sponsor the show, and who also give 4 overall belts out as well. I think that was a nice touch. And also in terms of the social media coverage from there, putting the reels out from the top 3 placings. I think, yeah, natural bodybuilding is definitely heading in the right direction. And that's effectively what we wanted to do here, grow the sport. And it looks like it's going in the right direction. So yeah, a huge shout out to them too. Loz and AJ with NBW, and Lee Kemp with UKDFBA. So yeah, the show running order, like I say, some phenomenal athletes there. It wasn't just a first timer show. Some great athletes returning to stage as well. And we'll go through that in a short while as well. So kicking things off, I know you've got the running order, and we made some good notes going through. I think we got from first to fifth in some categories as well, didn't we, Finn? So some evident shout outs there. And kicking off our first class of the day, I believe that was first timers bodybuilding class A, was it?
Yeah, so class A. So for an unusual first time I've ever known it, they split rather than do like height classes or weight classes for the bodybuilding and physique and classic as well. For nearly all classes, we did like A and B, and basically Lee on the mic said he just got the 10 youngest and then the 10 oldest, or the 12 youngest and the 12 oldest, because quite a lot of classes had a lot of people in, and I suppose they might have done that for time, because with this class, say like with the first time as A and B, there was like 25 to 30 guys total in, and if they'd had a short, medium, tall, it'd have been 3 classes instead of 2, and then one of the classes might have just had like 4 in, and then one might have had like 18 in, and another might have had like 6 in. You know what I mean? So I kind of understand why they did it, and I don't think it detracted from any quality. It wasn't like one class was lopsided and you thought, oh, well, actually, there was a few deserved placings who didn't really. I think it was quite fair. I think that the 2 classes had 2 top 5s in, which were pretty like all encompassing, really. Yeah, they were what you'd expect. You know, they were the top 5s in both. So yeah, first time as A. We said about the running order, it might have been a bit different, and it was a bit different on this year. So first time as A, so was the youngest. I think there was 12 or so in this, like the youngest lot, including a teen, actually. I'll give a shout out to in a minute. He didn't place, but Dylan, he had the best routine, I think, of the bodybuilding side of things. Not of the show, because one of the winners in Classic definitely had that, which we will get on to in a bit. But shout out to Dylan Jones. He, young man, he was only obviously a teen in the first time, as he also did the teens. Really good routine. We both said at the time that was a really accomplished, confident, well put together routine. So credit to him. And he had a nice little comment to say, you know, and I gave him some praise on his routine, and he was really quite chuffed about that. So yeah, first time as A was the youngest lot. Ellis Jones came 5th, Matthew Bum 4th, Ben Bedford 3rd, Ryan Wade 2nd, and then Julian, or Jack Chan as he's known on Instagram, came 1st. Kind of expected. When we saw the running order, he was very much the favourite on the paper, and when he came out, and as you see in some of the top three here, which again, like I say, shout out to NBW, amazing coverage, and more of this is what we want. And like we were saying, as a community, this is only going to help the sport. So yeah, Julian came out pretty much, I think it's fair to say, first pose, he was a standout. You know, he's got a very good, you know, anterior poses. His front relaxed, front double, front lat spread, like his very strong poses. And he pretty much as soon as he came out, he was in charge of that class. Although obviously he's come to light, he said he was quite poorly leading up to a show, which we did think, to be fair, he looked a little flat, I think, and maybe a little watery. But we actually said, as he posed, because they kept him out for quite a while, he actually got harder as the class actually went on. So as he was on stage longer, he actually hardened up, as you sometimes see with competitors. Sometimes if they haven't got an adequate pump, or if they've been quite nervous coming out, or there's very quite a few factors can come into it. So I actually thought Julian was almost coming to life as he posed more, because essentially you are giving yourself a bit of a pump as you pose. So you're spreading those foods around. As he's been poorly, obviously he'd have a lot of fluid to kind of get rid of, and he sweated a lot, so you could see he was sweating quite a lot on stage. But he said again, he was just sweating the sickness out of him. So yeah, Julian, he still had plenty to win this class. Even he'd probably say, I don't know, he might say he was at 90% or even less. Genuinely, with respect, he had more than enough to win this show. He's not a first timer in terms of physique. And obviously he was the social media favourite going in. He had a large following, and congratulate him. He's just got quite a significant sponsor yesterday or the day before he announced. He's with Elite Sups, which is one of the leading ones. So fair play to him, mate. And you know what? More natties getting supplement sponsors and recognition. It only helps the sport, and it gives people more of an indication you can achieve a lot staying natural in this game. So yeah, credit to him. Ryan in second, a very tall lad, so he would have been in tall, but a good amount of muscle, very good condition for a taller lad, and he's one who is a ultra flexor over him. So I've been seeing a bits of his prep on social media throughout the last couple of weeks and months, and good lad, and he's straight into an off season. I spoke to him, and he's got big potential going forward here. Very it takes time for taller lads naturally to fill out, but he's got a lot of muscle already. So I think another good quality off season, I think he's going to be very up there. And then Ben in third to fifth was quite close, I'd say. They all, what you expect in the first time is good parts and bad parts, and in terms of stronger shots and basically between the three of them, they put together a good third to fifth. But you could probably say with those two were a clear top two, and then third to fifth probably could have fought it out between themselves. So as I say, very much what you get with a first timers class. But as we've said before, we're not in the business of, we're not going to be critical on this podcast. We're not here to critique physiques and say, oh yeah, you need to do better at this, or you've got crap legs, you've got crap head. That's not what we want. We're not your coach. The coaches and the judges are the only ones who should give you feedback. And ultimately, as a lot of people say, you should know. Maybe not a first timer, but if you've competed before, if you come off stage and you've come second or third, you can look at the first place guy and go, right, what's he got that I haven't got? And most of the time it's muscle, and a lot more muscle than you, and maybe he was better condition. You know what you need. So yeah, we're not going to kind of say people looked crap or anything like this. We're just here to say what we saw. So yeah, it was a good first class. Luke, what did you make of that first one?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a great deal to kind of add on what you've said there, really. I mean, summarized it well. I think it was evident as soon as Jack Chan came out, he was eyes are drawn to him. I wouldn't. But Ryan did he's got heaps and bags of muscle as well. And I think in most other lineups he'd have probably took first place. And especially if he fell in towards that tall category, a lot of muscle, great condition, he posed well. But Julian just looked fluent up there. He just looked confident from the front, just lights out front and sides. It was pretty much there to be had, and then a toss up between third and fifth. But yeah, overall for a first timers and especially some of the younger guys, they really brought it there. It'd be hard to say that it was a great standard for a first timers, especially for some of the younger audience. It's evident to see those who have put the hard training in over the years as well. it's good to see, and it's great to see the first timers that are coming through now, because it's just raising the standard with things. And as you said, like Julian getting his sponsorship, and it's evident to see like these things, like if you put in the work with socials and stuff as well, like you can get good deals without being assisted. So yeah, it's great to see. And then yeah, as you've said with Dylan, like great routine on there, and also like shout out to his conditioning. Like had bags of like his condition very, very hard, which I'd say a lot of people struggle with as first time competitors. And I think what edged it for Ben in third place, he had a good amount of muscle, well balanced overall, which just kind of like pipped him over the other two guys in fourth and fifth place, really. But yeah, great show to start off the day. And as you said, with Julian, he got harder as the show kind of progressed. And we'll discuss this later. As he came out in the overall, he looked night and day difference as well. Much harder. But yeah, great show to start proceedings, really.
Absolutely. Yes, so Ben in Class B was the older half of the first timers. And actually, there was a couple of these who would have been in the Masters and later were in the Masters. So fifth was, I don't want to butcher his name, Osin Giri Cuddy. James Dobbin in fourth, Conor Mackay came third, Paul Bennett second, Jordan Coyle, who was on Instagram as the Muscle Building PT. He won. And this was I think this was a more balanced class. I think the top five are all quite similar, actually. This was a lot closer, and I think some of those placings could easily be a different way around that top five. A lot of these were like, if you look at the picture we put on, like they were quite similar height and builds, so it was very similar physiques you were looking at. So this was actually quite a good class, and they did compare them for quite a while, and they moved them around a bit. So we saw that actually a couple of times. The first call out, after like just a couple of poses, they'd then already move people rather than do a full round and then move them. So it was almost like, okay, you're better from the front, but as soon as they did the side poses, the judges moved people from the outside to the middle, and then sometimes that was how it stayed. So yeah, well done to all five of them. They were all in good nick, to be fair. And like I say, a couple of masters. So James Dobbin and Paul Bennett were actually, they did masters later in the day. And we were saying actually, with James, who came fourth, he's not on the videos unfortunately, but he'll be on. We'll see him in the masters. He was very, very, very heavily muscled. Very heavily muscled, and when he first came out, he was the one who you initially looked at, because he, on the far left there, he probably had the most muscle in the class. He just was a little bit, maybe like you say, if he had a tiny bit more in the quad, I think he probably could have been like second, third, maybe. Could have even pushed Jordan. I mean, we'll get onto Jordan in a second. But yeah, James, a lot of muscle, and we could tell that he was an older guy because older natties have that muscle. So when he came out for the Masters, we were like, oh yeah, makes sense that he's he's a lot older, because like I say, he had a shit ton of dense, thick muscle, as you can see from that side shot. Like, massive arms, massive chest, big back, good condition as well, but like he just maybe was a little bit unbalanced compared to the others above him, the top three. But to be fair, Jordan on this occasion, like we mentioned him in our preview show about his condition, like it was truly eye opening. It was like, we were quite we were quite far back in the audience, and we could see like the cross striations in his glutes, not just striations, like those cross striations, like top to bottom of the glute, and you don't get that. And genuinely, we put it on like say Chris Palin type, as it says there, but his back double was very reminiscent of the famous Ben Howard shot, with just like every little sinew is a bit visible. Like the condition he brought was unbelievable, and realistically, that's what won him this class. Like I wouldn't say he was far bigger than the others. It's just that you can't ignore that condition. Like he was that peeled. And like I say, I was speaking. I don't know if we mentioned it on the preview show. I think we did, but he like, as long as being a PT and a coach, he does some night shifts. Like to do nights and still come in this condition is pretty impressive. And you know what? He was very, very, very impressive. So shout out to him. Obviously, AJ prepped him. Ridiculous condition. Like, to get that condition for a first timer is very, very, very impressive. And Paul also prepped by AJ. He was a Masters. Again, very good condition. Probably just, maybe a little bit smaller than Jordan. That was a separation. Connor, again, good amount of muscle, really good amount of muscle. Another good first timer here. And Austin, I thought he was very, very peeled. And I thought he could have been a bit higher in this class, but he still came out with fifth, which is very, very good. Came over from Ireland, I believe. And yeah, he was very peeled, and actually he was one that he got, I think from memory, he got kind of called out a bit later to the first call out, like he wasn't originally picked, and then they called him from the back, and then he worked his way in. So it just shows you sometimes, like, again, like we've said before, don't stand at the back if you're not in the first call out and you think you should be, with like bottom lip hanging out, looking on the floor, shaking your head, hands on hips, like look like you still want it, because the judges might think, actually, I want to have another look at him. And he got brought forward, and then he worked his way more and more into the centre of that call out, and ended up taking fifth place. Whereas if he just kind of stood looking at the floor, he's probably gone home unplaced today, and someone else has taken that medal. So, like I say, very, very important to stay on it. So, yeah, Luke, do you want to go into a bit more about Jordan's conditioning there?
Yeah, I also want to give a shout out to Jordan as well. I believe it's his he's just had a newborn. I believe it's his first as well. Literally either today or yesterday, which I've just seen. So like, hats off to him. Like his night shifts, being in that condition, like he's balanced it all, man, and it's rightly rewarded on the day. And it's one of them things. It's like the pictures here, if you are watching on YouTube, like, don't do him justice. Like, seeing it in person, it's like, what is going on? And as we mentioned in the lead up to the show, he's one of these guys who's a lot fairer skinned, and you just know from like seeing how lean he looks without a tan, you're like, this guy is going to be inside out when you see him tanned up, glazed under the lights, and it was special to see, and also like not just his conditioning, his muscle mass, but also like how he conducted himself on stage. Like, he hit his poses well. He didn't rush through them. He just looked comfortable up there. And this class as a whole, as a first timer, it's like, it's a phenomenal top five. And then even if we go into like James, like that side chest, like from upper body is absolutely like, you don't see many. You don't see many for. I don't think I've ever seen a first timer with that much muscle in like chest, delts. It's wild. And then like into the obliques and stuff. Yeah, you could have had a couple of these guys like flip flap around. But yeah, as soon as Jordan walked out, you've got to reward that condition. It just highlighted the muscle that he did have. The separation in his legs, like all the way top to toe, also very well balanced. Paul Bennett as well, like great condition, just not quite as hard, or probably because he's not quite as muscular as Jordan. And then Connor in third, keeps of muscle, as you said. I think what kind of edged him over James is just that balance, really. And then, like I say, Ocean, as he came out, like I thought, yeah, he's got heaps of muscle, but just up against guys who are just harder, and that's and there's like, yeah, rightly deserved to kind of like move into that call out and select five, because he had a lot of muscle, just not quite as hard as these other guys. But yeah, a phenomenal top five, and there was some really good athletes who just missed out on that, and they probably wouldn't be too hardly done by, because like the standard that they were up against, like they were just up against five better athletes at the end of the day, and so that's sometimes how things go. And just wanting to go back so you can see the top five in the lineup in the first timers Class A as well. So great way to start things off. And yeah, as we've mentioned as well, like instead of splitting things up in the height order as they traditionally do, splitting it to a bit more of like an age category, even though some will actually fall in towards like the Masters later on. I thought it worked out well. Like, it was good balance, especially for the first timers, those who have trained for a relatively similar amount of years up against one another. And it ended up with having a good top five, really. But yeah, very, very good class. And we knew as soon as like from Jordan walked out from this, there was like, he's going to have a shout in the overall, like with that condition. But But yeah, rightly so, and rightly placed as well. So no arguments with the placements there at all.
Not at all. So then it was the teenagers. So traditionally the show opener, but like I say, first timers went this time. So this was a very good class. Obviously produced the overall winner, as everyone knows by now, Jacob, who, as you can see, he head and shoulders above everyone in that class, which is fair to say. But as we say, the teens was a very good lineup because, as you can see, each of those top 5 teens, if you followed Natty bodybuilding for a few years, like any of those 5 would be probably a typical winner of a normal teen class or even a team British. It's just Jacob and then last year Josh Campbell have kind of taken teens to a new level of what kind of people maybe even expect teens to be. So like I say, normally, Solomon, El Shabin, Archie, who were featured on the page earlier in the season, came 3rd, Corey Wright 4th, and Harry Hersom in 5th. Like any of those, and any of you lads, if you're listening, like you could have been. It's just you came up against a phenomenal, once in a generation almost kind of athlete. Like you'd be a winner on any other team lineup, in my opinion. Like having watched a lot of shows for several years, like the standard of teams is getting better and better. So Solomon in 2nd has a really good amount of muscle, really good shape. Like he'd probably be a British champion in any other year. Like literally, like he's that good. Archie, we knew was in good condition. He tipped up, and probably that's what separated him from 4th and 5th. Although, to be fair, like I said, I think third to 5th again could be anyway which round, probably. And I don't think you could make too many complaints. I felt Solomon was quite a good 2nd place because of his shape. Really, really good shape. All 5 of you lads are going to do exceptionally well if you stick at it. I know not a lot of the young ones sometimes do. Most of the time we do, but sometimes obviously life and other pursuits get in the way. But if all 5 of you stick at it, you will be junior and open champions of the future, naturally, or if you jump over, of which obviously my opinion is you're a bit too young to think about that just yet. But I know, unfortunately, sometimes you get tempted. But yeah, really, really good class. Like as I say, this top 5, I think any of those lads individually, if they were to win like in a qualifier, or if they were to win a British, you'd be like, yeah, absolutely, like a really good team. So, as we mentioned in at the show, everyone was in condition. Like, yeah, of course, there was a few people maybe didn't place because they weren't in condition enough, but in a couple of years ago, the first NBW Classic, there was quite a lot of people who probably weren't in condition at the show. I think it's fair to say, and obviously that's what you'd expect from first timers and novices. But everyone at this show was like shredded, like peel. Like I think we're understanding now the minimum requirement of condition for a natty, and everyone's bringing it. Now, obviously, it's the amount of muscle you have that's probably the separator now in terms of your placing. Whereas before, if you're in condition, you probably win your class because everyone else probably would be just slightly off the mark. Whereas we said in every class, like everyone was in good nick. Like there wasn't too many people where you were like, oh yeah, like stupidly soft, as you sometimes have had in previous first timers. So yeah, credit to and the teens led the way with this. Like everyone was shredded. And like I say, there was a couple of really good guys who didn't even place. Who in other lineups would be a really good qualifier, winner probably standard. So this is really, really good. Like I say, Jacob will get on to. I mean, enough's been said about that lad. We'll get on to when we discuss the overall, but like as soon as he stepped out, like unbeatable, literally at a teenage level, like he's just unbeatable. I don't want to say between him and Josh, like Josh Campbell, but like it would be a great lineup to see him against Josh, 1v1, both at the best. And with those coming through now, like they're both obviously, Josh, I think, has just turned 20, or he's turning 20 soon. Like they're going to be, I don't think they even need to do juniors, in my opinion. They're open winners of the future. I mean, Jacob could conceivably go pro at the Worlds if he does Worlds, because he'll win his class. I mean, if he doesn't win his class, I genuinely will be jaw on the floor because clearly there'll be some freak of a German or a Dane or an Italian teenager who's better than him, which I can't imagine. But he could also stand toe to toe in the overall for the pro card at Worlds for the amateurs. So it just shows you that like he could be a pro by this time, in 2 weeks' time. Like literally, that's how good he is. And with a good off season, he could be a pro winner. Like that's how good he is. Like head to toe, just a lot of muscle. He's very strong. We've discussed him on the preview show. Like he's a ex powerlifter, all that good stuff. That is going to grow you a lot of muscle. Really, really freaky quads. Just like you say, a pretty complete bodybuilder for his age, which is scary because, like I say, he's just getting started. So, most natties are probably in the prime from like the late 20s into the 40s. Like, where could he be in 10 years, even if he stays natty? Like, never mind if he, obviously, we're here to talk about natty stuff, but if he got tempted to go assisted, obviously, it'd be even freakier. But yeah, this guy is just, you just don't see him. You just do not see him. Like if he'd have been in the open, like, and he was 26, you'd be still like, oh my god, this guy's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Like that's how good he is. If he was 36, you'd be like, shit, this guy is fucking good, isn't he? But he's 19. Like it's just crazy. So I don't think any of you lads second to fifth should be disheartened because you have just literally come up against a juggernaut who, through no disrespect, you wouldn't. No one would have beaten him. Like he would have beaten most. Well, he wouldn't have. Like he'd have beaten most good open bodybuilders, and he did. So credit to him. So Luke, what was your take on the teens?
Yeah, I mean, well, as you've said, I mean, Jacob, I mean, beating a 2022 where it wasn't in the overall, which we'll get onto, but even Pippin a British champ, the 2022 British champ, we didn't quite make it towards the overall, but still ahead of them. And like in this lineup, just an absolute standout. You would say next to Solomon. Solomon's got obviously hitting a slightly different shot here with the most muscular, but like Solomon there with like arms and delts, he's probably up there with him. And also like I want a huge shout out to Solomon. He's 17. I don't know if he's just turned 18 now, but at the show he was 17 years old. And like if Jacob wasn't there, I know we're saying ifs and buts here, it'd have won the show, and you'd have been like, who's this guy at 17 years old? It's just unfortunate you're up against an absolute freak. And Jacob didn't really, even his weaker poses were not really weak poses in this lineup. Which as a teen, it's like it's that itself is rare. But then having like poses which are like 10 out of 10, as you can see from a front lat here, just an absolute standout. But then like class as a whole, like the top three, very, very good. Archie, won, we'll give him a shout out before. I think he did one of the PCA shows. Great conditioning, good amount of muscle mass, especially for a teen. All five of these did. But yeah, Jacob's structure, his muscle mass, his conditioning. He was on top to toe. There's no arguments at all there. It was also one of them where someone's walked out, they've not even flexed the quads, and you're like, who is this guy? Like, why can I see lines in his quads when he's not even on his quads? So yeah, very, very special to see. And it goes to show like the hard training definitely pays off, the heavy, hard training. And some of these guys, like the third to fifth, could have equally moved around. Like some shots a little bit sharper, and we did see a bit of movement in there. But like a clear first for Jacob. And a very, very good, like very, very good top five, to be fair. So yeah, they've all got a bright future behind these teams. And especially like I say, Solomon there with 17, I wouldn't exactly advise it if you're going to go again as a team, but it's there to be had if he wants that title and if he wants to go to Worlds. Like he could do very, very well with a good off season and going again with there. So yeah, I mean, starting off with some three phenomenal classes and starting with the young lads and delivering that, you're like, wow, we're in for a spectacle here. But like, right, this guy's probably gonna be up there in the overall. Same venue as Josh Campbell winning the overall as well. So there must be something in that, mate. There's something in the water there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. absolutely. So yeah, we had juniors, as you can see there. I think this was the bodybuilding class of the day. There was a couple of really good classes later in the show, like the men's physique open was very, very good, and we'll get to that at the end because that was last class on. And but yeah, I think the juniors was the class of the day in my opinion for the bodybuilding side of things. Just again, a top five, but there was a few guys who were probably sixth, seventh, eighth who were very good bodybuilders and probably would have placed on any other day. Just a really good lineup. So as you can see, Sorab, Isaac won it quite comfortably. From Dovidas Baran sorry, Dovidas. In second, Julian came third. Joe Curl came fourth, who we'd featured just a few days prior to the show for doing a PCA show. And then Daniel Spate came fifth. Again, a really, really good top five for juniors. And as you see there, Julian, a bit of a pre-show favourite, coming third. And that was that's not to say that he was off. Like, he's beaten by two guys who were very, very good on the day. So it just shows you, like, a guy as good as Julian coming third, how good this lineup was. I think Sorab just was the best of overall in terms of probably the hardest and the most balanced in terms of his muscularity. Very detailed quads. The photo doesn't give it justice. Like, he had detail at the top of his quads, like around the hip flexor, like you just don't see on many natties. That is showcasing very good condition. Very, very good condition. A really good classic structure, as you can see. And he was very good. And we've said before, like in the preview show, like his training is exceptionally accurate, and it's particular like his quad training. And you can see like the detail in his quad was indicative of someone who is very, very not even necessarily strong, just perfect execution all the way through on every single rep and things like that. So yeah, he had a lot of good muscle maturity and won this class quite handily. Dovidas, who both of them actually came later to do the classic, as you can see, had a very classic physique. To be fair, unfortunately, because obviously when they do the top five, no one ever does a back pose because it just looks weird. Because obviously your photo's been taken, but his back was very good, and that's probably what got him second. Dovidas was very strong on his posterior, like head to toe. Big back, shredded glutes, really dug in hams, lovely frame. So, you could see if he gives his if he brings his front to be as freaky as his back, like he'll be pretty much untouchable. Obviously Julian we spoke about came third, very good. I did feel Julian looked a little bit tired when he came out. Unfortunately, he'd sweated a lot, so probably some of his tan had gone. But like I say, it was no disrespect, because this was a good lineup, so it shows you how good it was that he came third. Joe in fourth, very shredded, as you can see, very peeled, potentially the most peeled of the top five, or certainly up there. And on another day, he's a comfortable junior winner. So again, no shame to be fourth in that lineup, Joe. You're very good. It was a very good lineup. Like I say, I do think it was the bodybuilding class of the day by far. And like I say, Joe really well put together, really good condition, as you'd expect. He's a client of Christian Chapman's, and he had quite a few guys and girls at that show, and all of them were in very good shape. So again, that's what he brings with his clients, and Joe was no exception. And then Daniel in fifth, again, very, very good structure, very good frame. Another day, he'd be very, very good, placing top two, top three in any junior lineup, but it was just a very, very strong one this time around. But again, I believe that was his first ever show, so he's got a very good future. I think apart from Joe, I think this was everyone's first show actually, and Joe had done PCA first timers the weekend before. So, to say these are first timers as well as juniors, they've got a lot of good futures on this top five. But like I say, Sorab, unfortunately, is not doing worlds. He's just one and done. For a few reasons, asked him, and then asked Adam, his coach, Adam Powell. He's unfortunately not going to go to Worlds, but he's got a couple of decent reasons as to why. So he's gone straight into an off season. So that just it'll be exciting to see what he can do in the next time, and I believe he'll be in the Open because he's 22 now. So I imagine he'll have a semi-decently long off season, and when he comes back as an Open competitor, I do think he will be very, very capable of taking good quality titles. And not to jump the gun into the overall, but I had him in the overall. I had him top three potentially in the overall. Sorry, but I thought he was that good. So, as I say, a good another one. We keep saying it, but there was no bad classes in this show. There just wasn't. So, a really good top five, Luke.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Sarab, as soon as he came out, I mean, we expected this from what we've seen in the lead up, like not a long lead up because Adam obviously took him on quite late, about 4 weeks out, and he sharpened up, and it showed from his training, especially with like how accurate he is in his leg training, like the detail and separation there, and also like stood next to Julian, but also like his leg detail looking even harder than Julian's. Like it's like, wow, that is impressive. Great structure, top to toe, well balanced, good set of arms on him as well. For bodybuilding, but also got that kind of like classic structure as he's hitting this shot as well. Same with Julian. And then Dovidas, who was in second, probably not hitting his strongest pose, front lat, but like you say, he's very good from the posterior, but it would have just looked awkward if he hits like a rear double or a rear lat here. I also thought it was very strong from the side. Nice detail from glutes and hamstrings. And as he kind of transitioned into his side shots, looked very strong, like had a good side chest on him as well. He looked very, like this photo don't really do him justice, but he was very, very good condition. As was Joe in fourth as well. And Julian just up against like some more muscled athletes. And as much as he had that good structure, it shows you don't know who you're going to turn up against as well. And I thought Daniel, who was in fifth as well, like in any other lineup, like any other day, you'd have probably banked on him being in the top three. But like being top five in this class, like it was a good class. Some people who fell just outside of that, some great athletes. He had a great shape and structure, good amount of muscle for a junior as well. So yeah, topped off with a good class. Very, very good. And you can see like as you can Joker like on the outside, just upper body just peeled. So no one missed the mark in terms of conditioning in this top five at all. It was a very, very good class, and I think, yeah, rightly so, the best bodybuilding class of the day. Yeah, very, 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 very well rounded.
Yeah, absolutely. So then we'll go into the Masters. We'll kind of do this all as one because they brought them out as one because there was only 8 across the 3 classes. There was a 3 in the Masters, 3 in the Grandmasters, and then 2 in the Ultra Masters. So the Masters was Nick Richardson, Paul Bennett came second, James Dobbin came third. Both of them were in the first timers. We've spoke about them. Then the Grandmasters was John T. Williams in first, Lorne Brown second, Rob Peckham third. And then the Ultra Grandmasters, the over 60s, was Courtney Smith and Michael Rust was the top 2. And then Nick Richardson got the overall Masters. They kind of brought them out. We always do that at UKDFBA shows. And BNBF tend to give an overall Masters as well sometimes. Usually at finals, and actually they'll usually win a pro card to go off at a tangent. So yeah, there weren't too many in this, which last year there was quite a lot, and it was quite stacked because a lot of them were going for Worlds qualifications. So it was a little bit lower on numbers than usual, but good quality. Like I really, really liked Nick, the Masters winner. I don't think NBW couldn't find him on Instagram, so he, like many of the Masters, I don't think he's on. He's on Instagram because a lot of them don't tend to, because obviously they're older. Who needs social media, eh? I really like Nick, and I had him in the top 3 or 4 for the overall. Actually, fantastic bodybuilder. I think he could have comfortably won the Open class to this show, if I'm being honest. Yeah. But obviously, him being actually in the Masters cut off, he's probably thought, well, I'll just do Masters because that's my class. I kept saying at the time, not just because of the haircut or lack of, but very similar to Damien Lees, my old coach and a pro and a multiple titled winner of the natural scene. And if you don't know Damien, then you're under a rock because he's a bit of a British legend and a good mate of mine. Like, he very similar physique, strong head to toe, big arms, big back. You can see from that front like really tip top condition, great side poses. He was just very balanced, and as you get with masters, like masters are usually the best you're going to be as a natty because you've got decades of lifting under your belt. And he was a very strong masters winner. I would say he's one of the best masters winners I can think of in the last couple of years. And I think if he does do Worlds, which I hope he does, I think he could comfortably win that. Or he's capable of, for sure. He's got what you would see in a lot of pro natural lineups, like those older pros, like when they come out and they're just like, yeah, you're a fucking good bodybuilder. Like, so he really, in my opinion, he's pro level in terms of muscularity, in terms of his condition. His posing was fantastic, and like I say, Paul and James, who we spoke about, were just they didn't look out of place being first timers, but they've come up against Nick, who I don't know his competitive background. I must admit, because like I say, I've not found him on Instagram, and I don't know of him prior to this show, but I'd imagine he's not a first timer. I would imagine he's been competing a lot, quite a long time. So it's no shame to lose to someone like him. And like I say, I think he was very much up there in the top 3 or 4 in the overall. I really liked his physique. John T, who won the over 50s, so the Grandmasters, he's been around the block. We've known him from many shows. I think he did the British last year. He's always good. He's always up there. He brought a lot of fans because we were sat with him. They filled out about 3 rows. So credit to him. Sold a lot of tickets, clearly. Popular guy. So always good to see that. And, he'll do very well at Worlds. Very good condition. He's John T is always very good. Well polished. Good shape. Good symmetry. Just a very good over 50s competitor, and he beat a really good guy in Lorne Brown, who again, he's been around the block. I think even Lorne did WNBF Worlds last year, who's won several titles of his own. So him to come second in this lineup is pretty good. So to say there was only 5 of them, as you can see there, the top 2 were very close and very good. Lee may even take both of them to Worlds. I don't know. Very good lineup here, and like I say, Rob in third was very good condition. Just he's come against 2 guys who were probably again decades worth of competing behind him. And then last but not least, Courtney, who won the over 60s. Again, we recognised him. He competes most years. He's a bit like old Nige Barton, and quite a few of the over 60s tend to compete year after year because I suppose, if you're in your 60s, do you need to gain 30 pounds in an off season? You're probably not the best idea. So I think a lot of them just stay within a few pounds of stage condition year round in the 60s. And Courtney's always very good. A very young physique. Like if you just saw his physique, you'd think could be past for his 30s. Like, good skin. Really good muscle belly still, good level of muscularity and condition. Not like sometimes in the over 60s, they can look a little bit their age, like, but he was very good. And Michael came second, another really good guy. And again, looking at him, you wouldn't think he's in his 60s. So credit to them both. And I imagine Courtney will probably go to Worlds as well, because like I say, him and Nige will be a good strong contingent if they both do go. But like I say, yeah, they are really good 3 winners here, and experienced guys who between them have probably got a lot of silverware. So, what was your take on these 3 classes?
Yeah, so I think Nick Richardson, as soon as he came out, you're like, what, like, why this guy's masters over 40s? Is like, it's evident to see from his like muscle mass, but like the condition he brought, the balance, his standout. And rightly, as you've said, like he would have most probably took the bodybuilding as well. Took open bodybuilding, like massive arms, like great separation in the arms. And I think like this shot alone, like for you lot watching on YouTube now, like very impressive to hit a front double with flex down abs, and it looked just looked massive, and your lats still popping out. It's yeah, great balance head to toe. Didn't really have a weak pose. And up against like two very, very good like Masters competitors, and both these two as first timers. Like James, we mentioned before, heaps of muscle in his upper. And then Paul, great conditioning, good amount of muscle there as well. But yeah, Nick was just a standout. As soon as he came out, it was like, who is this guy? Um, and he looked as if he's competed before, how he kind of like conducted himself, how he hit his poses. Looked very relaxed up there. And I think, yeah, Jonte, and also like tipping Lorne in the Grandmasters, like Lorne Brown has, yeah, competed several times before, took several titles. So Jonte obviously brought it to just tip him on the day. And then Courtney Smith, as we mentioned, like competed several times before. He's a bit of a legend of the game, really. And as we mentioned, Nigel, he actually made an appearance at the show, didn't he? So it was good to see Nigel kicking about as well. So I wonder if they'll both be at Worlds, or if not, yeah, Courtney. Like if you look at that for like over 60s, how he's got like huge triceps. Same with Michael there, like, and like great hamstring drop for like over 60. I'm like, hats off to these guys. And like rightly so, if you've got that muscle mass there and you can get in shape, you might as well stay in shape at the time. So it makes sense if these guys are competing year after year. But yeah, good standard, and great standard overall for the Masters competitors.
Absolutely. So yeah, first of our female classes next is the first timers figure. A smaller class, I think there was only five, but this is the top three. So Stella and Ania won first place, Mary Graham second, and Olivia Stevenson came third. Olivia actually came out and did physique later on, which we'll get on to in a couple of classes' time. So yeah, smaller class, but pretty decent first timers to be fair. There was, and I think, yeah, she got the Masters figure. I might have got a name later on, but within that, there was a single Masters figure, so she won that by default. And we both said she was exceptionally peeled. She's not in this photo, but she was the most peeled woman of the entire show. Like striations everywhere, probably almost too peeled for a natty figure. But if she'd done physique, she would have won that because she was exactly what physique wants, which is basically a peeled figure. But yeah, the winner here, Stella, was just what the UKDFBA, well, what most natural federations like from figure. We don't want too much condition. We don't want too much separation. They just want that natural shape. So that's probably why she beat Mary, despite, if you've probably been fair, Mary looked quote unquote better. Yeah, but Mary was probably just a bit too hard for what the judges like for figure. Which is no shade, and that's not her fault. She's obviously come very well prepared, but again, sometimes this just shows that you need to be aware of the criteria, particularly if you're doing assisted and non and natural shows. So if you do like PCA figure, they've got a very different criteria to natural figure. So a really good PCA figure girl would probably be more like physique in a natural federation, whereas a good natural figure girl would potentially get caught. You know, they might think PCA might judge you as a bit soft. I don't know. So, like I say, Stella was just what you'd want, and she actually held her own in the ladies overall. So she wasn't a million miles away. So for a first time, a very very well presented. Just what a good natural shape. Like I say, Mary was very very impressive, very very lean. Just like I say, maybe have been a bit too hard here. But like I say, the judges may still grant qualifications to Worlds for some of these people who are in second, third, and beyond. Like we said in the preview show, depending on their age, and also sometimes we say to them, look, you fit this criteria this a lot better. Why don't you do physique at Worlds or whatever it might be? Or like you say, you might have a guy in Classic who is technically a junior, so they might say, well, would you come to Worlds as a junior Classic guy? And so on and so forth. So as I say, sometimes that happens. So I don't know. Until we announce the team for Worlds, we don't know who we've asked. But yeah, Olivia in third. She came out and did physique, so might as well touch on it now. She was the only one in physique, unfortunately. But so she won gold. But as Lee said, within any other physique lineup, she'd more than hold her own. And posed really well, as you tend to see. We've said before the women pose a lot better than men. On the whole, on average, women just tend to, I don't know if to take it more seriously, they practice better, it comes more naturally to them, I don't know. I'm not saying lads are bad posers at all, lads are very good posers, I'm just saying women tend to be very, very polished posers. The routines are usually a lot better and really, really impressive. So, small class, but this was quite good for first timers, like I say. Just one mainly, like I say, on the shape fitting the criteria.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like Mary even in second, like probably as a bodybuilder, probably like one of the standouts is you'd like who catches your eye straight away. Not in terms of shape, but in terms of like conditioning and muscularity there. But probably just like definitely for UKDFBA, too hard for the class. Too hard, like, and didn't match the criteria. But if she was in probably another class, probably could have took gold on the day. And very impressive nonetheless. Stellar in first, like shape, structure, exactly what UKDFBA want for figure. And rightly so, took the win on the day, and like you said, held her own on the day. And then Olivia there as well. Great shape, great structure. Just not as hard as the other two in there. But yeah, the winner of the physique class on the day. And unfortunately, only the only physique. One thing to say as well, like both Stella and Mary could have probably been in physique as well. I don't know if that was mentioned, if they wanted to specifically be in figure or not. We'll not really know of that unless we speak to them. But it would have been nice to see like a bigger class, not like for Olivia really herself as well. But sometimes you just get that, and you can only beat what's in front of you at the end of the day, and that's what Olivia did. So yeah, great standard, and all posed very, very well, and held her own up there for sure. So after
So after this was
yeah,
open figure.
first timers as well, and all did very well for the first time.
So Abby Courage won this, and she'd won the overall at PCA first time as the week before. We just not featured her on as a shout out, unfortunately, because she just not come to our attention. And Chloe Young came second. Ainsley McLean came third. And as you can see, very good lineup. A really decent lineup for figure. Very strong. Chloe in second on any day probably is a comfortable winner, but this is how good Abby was, who then did win the overall, which we'll get onto soon. And as we both said live during the show, as soon as they came out, like Abby she was last in terms of the numbers, so she was on the far right of stage, and it was quite a big class actually. But even though sometimes when you're on the outside, you can sometimes almost be missed at first with the judges because obviously they're looking middle outwards. But she hit the front relaxed, and straight away, me and you like eyes drawn, and we're like, oh yeah, that's the winner. And again, that's not disrespectful. That was just the what you look at for like the dictionary definition. Dictionary definition, the UKDFBA definition of figure. Like that's what her frame is. Like just basically a figure frame, like cap delts, good lats from the front, tiny waist, sweeping quads, well posed. Like I say, a pro in weighting, dare I say. And she's only 22. So she, technically a junior. We don't have junior figure in Natural Federation. So you tend to, like we've said in previous ones, when we were talking about the criteria of classes a few episodes ago, so listen to that if you haven't. Like, figure girls tend to be a little bit older because obviously you need a bit more muscularity for that. But in the last couple of years, we've kind of bucked that trend because quite a lot of really good figure girls like Zena, Abby Kerr, Beth Hills, people like that. And I know Beth technically did fit body, but these girls like mid-20s are coming through with a lot of muscle. So Abby was a clear winner in this class, and that's no shade to the other two girls in the top three, Chloe and Ainsley, who were both exceptional. Just again, this is a bit like the Jacob and the teens. Like you're probably not going to beat Abby at amateur level realistically. And she's doing Worlds and she's doing PCA Naturals next weekend, and I think she's doing a FitX show next weekend. She did say, because we asked about getting her on, and quite fairly, she said she'd come on happily after Worlds. So look out for that in a few weeks' time. Yeah, very, very good athlete. And say it was only a second ever show, so she's done 2 shows and 2 overalls. Like, pretty much you can't ask for much more than that. And in terms of, like I say, going forward for her, like, there's just basically there's nothing to kind of change to jump to pro level again. She could win a pro card at Worlds quite comfortably, and I think she'd hold her own in a pro lineup at such a young age. So, as I say, there's nothing kind of for her to stop her having a really good future in this sport. Chloe, as I say, very, very good figure, as you can see. Really good shape, a very good natural figure shape. And, in any other day, any other lineup, she's a comfortable winner. Posed well, as we keep saying with the females. Really, really good. And Ainsley, again, I believe she'd done the PCA show earlier in the year. Very, very good. Very good. Obviously, a bit shorter compared to Chloe. So kind of, when it comes to figures, sometimes the taller girls tend to have the more natural frame, and the shorter girls tend to have a little bit more muscle. Not always, but sometimes. So it kind of can be almost the cliched apples and oranges. So I think they could have potentially been the other way around in another lineup in another judging panel. But as I say, really good top 3. And good to see another potential future superstar of the natty scene uncovered in Abby. And like I say, she will go on to do very good things in either side of the sport, should she carry on, which I believe she absolutely is. Yeah, really, really impressive.
Yeah, really good. Abby, like say, I don't know how we missed her taking the overall the PCA the week before. But obviously I had high confidence coming into the show off the back of her overall from the first show. And rightly so. Like, structure is just like it's just made for your UKDFBA figure. Great delts, small waist, flaring lats, good quads. Like, and being so shapely from the front pose. Quite often we see like a lot hitting more of the kind of like the side pose within the figure, kind of like accentuating the small waist and cap delts and the lats from there. As you can see, like Chloe hitting here. But even from the front, just like Abby just stood out from there, even at the side of the stage. And rightly so, going to Worlds and rightly winning this class. And then Ainsley in third, tiny waist and good delts for on that. Up against like obviously Chloe, which is like much taller. So it doesn't look quite as say big with that. And sometimes that happens in kind of like open figure with less than in like bodybuilding classes and less separated. Still like a decent amount in this class itself. And I believe Ainsley, I'm sure yesterday she actually won the NABA British in figure. So a well-seasoned athlete, great standard as well. So done very, very well, and rightly so. Like I say, on another day, these would have probably come home with winning the class and potentially winning an overall. But just up against a phenomenal athlete in Abby Courage. Did really like Chloe's structure though. Very, very good. And I think if she had a good off season or coming back into the future, she's definitely up there for taking the overall there as well. And same with Ainsley as she's previously done, as she's done yesterday. So yeah, very, very good figure standard. And yeah, rightly so. Looking forward to seeing Abby and what she does at Worlds as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, so first time is Classic. So this is the first of the Classic. So again, like the bodybuilding, we did A and B, and this was the youngest lot, so Class A. And as you can see straight away, you can't miss him. Jordan Ball, the winner. Sorab came second in this one. Marcus Austin third. Daniel Spate, who came fifth in the juniors, came fourth, and then Harry Hodgson in fifth. This was a really, really decent class. Just dominated. Like, Jordan came out, and I had him second in the overall actually. After Jacob, was, I wouldn't say a clear overall winner. Obviously, we'll get into the overall in a few classes time, but Jordan was my pick for second.
Yeah.
And as you can see here, obviously he beat Sorab, who is an exceptional bodybuilder, and this guy is the future. Like, there's the out of when you think of recently discovered talent amongst amongst natural bodybuilders, like, he is probably, the one of the last couple of years that I can think of. Like, this I won't say kid, because I think he's in his mid-20s. Like, he is a future superstar. Like, he posted his routine. It's called Jordan Ball on Instagram. He posted his routine properly, like, because the NBW didn't have the same music he used. Please watch it. It was the best routine
100%.
I think I've ever seen. Unbelievable routine, posed with, just as you can see, flawless posing if you're watching on YouTube. So confident. It went well, absolutely timed spot on. Like, he hit every pose on beat. Like, his routine was the best of the show, and everyone's still talking about it. And as you can see, if you on the NBW post, there's like literally hundreds of comments. How impressive this guy is. And it was one of those where we were saying, it's not a disrespect, like, when he stood still, he looked soft, and then he flexed, and it was like, oh shit, this guy's like lean. Like, and that's, I don't want that to mean as a negative, so don't take that as a negative, Jordan. Like, but like I say, just how freaky his physique was. Like, it's almost like he needs to pose for it to come to life. He was a clear winner as soon as it came out, and that's how good he is. Because obviously Sarab is exceptional, but he just, as soon as he came out, he's got massive lats from the front, tiny waist, huge arms, really peeled upper body, big legs, and like I say, he's not that not that known. To be fair, the show photos are like I say, hey, there I am. There's my comment. So as I say, it was, go and watch that routine, please. It genuinely, it's something to behold. Really was. And that video was a bit fairer of his condition, because obviously the reels slightly lost focus a little bit when people moved, which is fair because you've got a static camera in, and with them moving around on stage, it just sometimes blurred it a little bit. So, as I say, this guy is a future superstar. I truly hope he stays natural, but you could. Again, we don't like to talk about it, but if he did go assisted, like, we're talking Olympia stage, like, that's how good he is. If he does, well, I did actually speak to him. Right, he's probably on stage right now at the PCA Hampshire. I spoke to him last night, and he's doing that today. And we're filming. This is Sunday morning, and it's 11:45. So we usually have the classic guys on early in PCA shows, so he may have already been on, or he might just be about to go on. So hopefully, he does well in that. But he didn't mention I asked him if he's doing any more shows. He just said just this one. So I don't know if he is going to go to Worlds. Maybe in terms of like his timeline, he's got stuff on, or he can't commit, or whatever it is, which is fair. Like you say, sometimes it's expensive. People have holidays. People have stuff going on in life. So as I say, just a very good quality winner. And like I say, Sorab came second. He's very classic, so he kind of fit there. I think the NBW have missed him on that.
Yeah.
Daniel, who came fourth, as we say, we spoke about him in the juniors. Looked at home again in this classic lineup. Sorry, and Harry was an interesting one in fifth, because again we said we really liked his physique, but he wasn't in first call outs. He was in the second one, and he was just off centre in the second call outs, but then they kind of moved him in, and he got compared with Daniel in fourth and another guy who ended up not placing, who'd originally been in first call outs, and he worked his way in to get in fifth place. So again, just stay at it. If you're not straight away in the first call out, but you think you're good enough, keep a smile on your face and pose well. And when you get your moment, because everyone does in the UKDFBA, everyone gets their time at the front of the stage, because they're fair like that. Fucking pose like your life depended on it, and you might work your way in. So credit to Harry, he did. He didn't drop his head when he weren't in first call outs, because we said we quite liked his physique when he came out. before they did the call outs when they were in number order, and then he had a lot of muscle, was in good nick, and then he wasn't. He might have just been missed, overlooked for the first call out, and then did well. And then Marcus in third, I thought it was quite impressive. He's just come up against two very good bodybuilders, like I say, who were probably, two of the top four of the overall for the show in Sarab and Jordan. So Marcus, again, for what Natty's Classic is about, is he was very much in that bracket. And again, this is the thing with first timers. You could come up against a Jordan who is just already a pro world champion, or basically standard wise, but you can't do anything about that. So in any other first timer class, Marcus would be an incredible winner, and we'd be talking about him saying, yeah, this guy is a fantastic bodybuilder, which he is. He just unfortunately came up against two very freaky guys who are going to have great futures, and that's the nature of first timer and novice shows. You don't know who's turning up. So yeah, this was a really good class. This was one of the classes of the day. Just dominated by Jordan. Like no one at amateur level, again, like I said about Jacob, is touching Jordan in a classic lineup. They're just not. It just isn't going to happen. He's that good, and I hope he does go to Worlds in the end. But if he doesn't, doesn't matter. He's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, as you said, Jordan, like, as he came out, his physique, he was like, I think initially, like, until they actually hit his front relaxed, I was like, what? He almost had to flex and hit his poses, and then you're like, wow, like, he just blew out. His lats had come out, and you're like, what is this guy? But if he was just stood, actually relaxed, not hitting a front relax, you wouldn't have, your eyes wouldn't be initially drawn to him. Would probably go more towards Surab. But yeah, every pose he hit, you're like, wow, this guy's structure, his frame, he's dense, got a lot of muscle, good condition as well. And you can even see, like, side by side next to Surab, great athlete, but like from the upper body, it's just like, wow, like he's just a big guy. And then when he did his routine, that just topped it off as well. Like, it's the first time I've witnessed a routine like that in person as well. And like, it's one of them, like, I'll watch back now on socials, the one he's posted himself, with his music as well. That gives, like, hairs will stand up, because we've been there in the audience seeing it, and it was one of them. I don't know if it felt as if they actually turned the music up for for his routine, but he just hit everything to the beat. Every pose was hit well. Great structure, great amount of muscle mass. Looked like he enjoyed it up there, hit it with passion. That routine was very good. As much as you don't get judged on your routine with UKDFBA, that just topped it off. And then great, yeah, top three I think was very good. Still a good top five, but I think the top three was definitely like a touch ahead of the of fourth and fifth. And so Rab was still quite clearly in front of Marcus in third, but Marcus was still very good. Great structure, great frame, good condition, very well balanced. Same as Rab, as we mentioned before. Daniel Spate, probably not the best angle through of him here, but as we mentioned before, great. And Harry, rightly so, like, worked his way back in. Because we was looking at him at the side, at the back, thinking like, how has this guy not got in there? Obviously, up against like Jordan and Sarab and Marcus, who was like, well, they've got great quality there, but rightly so, worked his way in there. And yeah, as we've mentioned before, you can do that if you are on the side. Just ensure you do want to be there. Don't be disheartened, because you can work your way back in towards that top five. And as you can see here as well, like, the new plaques from UKDFBA, and as well as trophies for fourth and fifth. Do you know what I mean? Like, everything's improving now, so it's definitely going in the right direction here. So that was first timers Classic A. And now we're going to move on to first timers Classic B. Another good standard as well, wasn't it, Vin?
Yeah, like as the caption we put on the post says, this was the closest contest. Doesn't necessarily mean it was the class of the day. This was the closest in terms of the top five were very similar, and any other day that top five could be the way around. Lewis Clofton, sorry, mispronouncing it, won it. Dovidas came second, who came second in the juniors. Chris Coulter came third. Max O'Dwyer in fourth, and Ryan, who'd done the first time as first time as A, came second. He came fifth. So again, it just shows how good this lineup was, and I think, as I say, any of those probably could have won, and I think no one would have been overly dismissive of that result. I think it was a very close top five, and they compared them for quite a while actually. They kept them out. We did several call outs, and again, I think Lewis in the very first call out we did was on the outside, and he's ended up winning. So it just again shows you just because you're not centre of first call outs doesn't mean you're out of the podium spots. Like Lewis, I'm fairly sure was not first out on first call outs, but when they compared them, they kept moving him back and forth. Dovidas was in the centre, I think. Then Chris was, and I think Max got moved in, and then they were moving him around for a long time, and they almost did a confirmation call out like you see in the IFBB shows. So this was a very, very tight class, and it was one of those where, and I know it was first timers, so credit to them for posing well. They were all sweating at the end, and you could tell a few people were flagging, and dare I say it, maybe some of the placings were dictated on your posing fitness, because they did keep them out for a long time. They kept comparing them, and it just shows you practice your posing and get some endurance in you, because. And I wouldn't expect it first timers because it's tough. But a seasoned open guy who would practice the posing would still be there, composed, not breathing heavy. You can't control sweating too much, so you can't. It's no fault if you sweat. But I know Chris in third kept having to go off to dab himself, and by the end his tan had ran quite a lot. So whether that played a role, it may have. If he could have cracked the top two. But yeah, Lewis very good. I went on his profile yesterday, and yeah, he's very peeled. He was probably just the best all round physique of the five. But like I say, just if anyone's listening and you've not yet to do your first ever show, practice posing. This is why we say to do it. If you don't, you could get caught out, because I think particularly like Chris and Max in third and fourth, they started to fade a little bit because they were sweating a lot and they were quite out of breath. And without getting into too negative, I know Max in fourth. I don't know if you'll listen to this. He was quite upset at the result, which we get. People really care and they want to win. I just, it's not. I don't particularly think it's great to do. It was on TikTok, I believe it went on Instagram. To do videos calling out the Fed. They're not going to place you after the show because you call them out. I just don't think it needs to be done. You can disagree, but particularly at amateur natty level, what's it matter? I get why IFBB pros do it, because it's like their ticket to the Olympia. It's thousands of pounds, or sorry, dollars worth of prize money. I kind of understand why they can throw the toys out, but I just don't think it's needed. And to be fair, Max, we both, me and Luke, thought you looked brilliant. We thought you had a shit ton of muscle. I think if you'd done bodybuilding, you could have placed top two. I just think maybe, I don't know if Lee has spoken to you. I just think maybe actually for Classic, you were a bit too heavily muscled. So that's a positive. So you might have actually had that counted against you, because remember, Natural Classic is slightly less muscled than your open. So I think, Max in fourth was actually a really good open bodybuilder. And I think he would have placed even higher in one of the first time open classes. Quite comfortably so. We see here he beat Ryan, who came second. So if he was in that same class, he'd have come second probably to Julian. He was really good, but it's just one of those where maybe the criteria of the class went against him. I don't know. Also, like I say, that towards the end, him and Chris were in third. Were struggling a bit with the posing. So, as I say, very, very good lineup. So, I didn't want to be negative, and it's not a call out, and don't take it as one. I just wanted to say, we're here to promote positivity of the natty community and natural federations. And like I say, on any other day, this could have been that top five could have been the reverse order, and I think no one would have been particularly good about that. But yeah, Lewis very, very good within this lineup. I don't know if he's carried on his season, but he's you know, for Classic and for a natural federation, like he's very, very, very high quality. So it would be good to see him do more shows. But either way, all five of these chaps have got good futures, and yeah, this was a really, really tight contest.
Yeah, great standard here. I mean, the fact that Ryan Wade coming fifth in this class, who obviously took second in junior bodybuilding first timers, and also just like look great. Just shows the standard that there was there at this class. Then fourth, like Max had heaps of muscle. Maybe probably just not as shapely as the other guys in terms of a classic criteria. Not to say that you don't have great shape, Max. But I think in terms of the criteria, that's probably maybe why they picked you. At the end of the day, I'm not a judge as well, so like don't take this with take it with a pinch of salt there. And then the top three, these was flip-flopped around quite a bit. I know Max did get put in and around there as well. But yeah, a lot of movement in there. My eyes was drawn towards Lewis, like even when he was at the side, just I think he just edged him. He was just harder. Obviously Chris was sweating quite a bit. You couldn't really help that, as you say. And Dovidasa had already been on earlier in the day. So whether that affected him, it's hard to say. But I think yeah, Lewis did look sharper of the three of them. But yeah, great shapes for second and first, Dovidas and Chris, like great classic structures and shapes, especially through for the UKDFBA. I think they'll all do they'll both do very, very well, especially and Lewis himself as well. But I think, yeah, Lewis was just the best overall on the day and rightly placed as he has done there. And I think in terms of all the placements, like all fairly done and rightly so as UKDFBA done. So there's no arguments with any of them. Yes, it's subjective, but it's with rationale and reasoning behind, especially in regards to the criteria. So, but yeah, there's no need to like definitely don't act on social media for it because at the end of the day, it's not going to change your placing, and it could it's not going to help your potential placings in the future either, really, is it? So yeah, as much as it's upsetting and you've put like your effort into it, so is everyone else. Like everyone comes to win at the end of the day, but not everyone can win, and that's bodybuilding. So moving on, first time, and very, very
Yeah,
good.
so
Well, this wasn't it?
yeah, ladies bodybuilding, only two there, but Leanne Short and Pamela Fellows. But as Lee said, like, and again, I don't think the audience actually did comprehend, apart from those of us who know natty like bodybuilding, like how special these two were. Like to have them, like I said, most bodybuilding classes tend to only have one woman in, and then finals is usually only two or three or maybe five tops. Like it's a very low class, and but you know it's still a good one, and Lee likes to keep it in, and a lot of them, like we said in when we did the episode on what classes natty federations offer, like this is one where a lot of girls can go from first timer to pro in almost two shows, of which Leanne and Pamela they're both pro level, like quite literally. Tons of muscle. Leanne probably on the day just a little bit harder. That was probably what separated them. But having seen Pro Worlds last year in Manchester, these two would probably be the top two or three within that. Now, for some reason in this country, we tend to really produce a lot of top female bodybuilders in natural federations. Like we do really well. Like we've won many over the years. Like a few of our girls have won lots of pro titles, Natty Olympias, WNBF Worlds. Like it's something that we tend to do really well. We punch above our weight when it comes to our like how small we are as a population comparatively. So these two are no exception. Like to say they were both first timers, like they on any other day they'd be like I say pro winners. Never mind British winners. Two of the best female bodybuilders I've ever seen, comfortably. Like, and you can tell looking at both of them, they lift heavy. Pamela is a power lifter, so you can tell again, you know, strong base foundation. Like it's going to show on stage when you get lead. Both posed incredibly well, both really good routines. Literally, I think you could have flipped a coin, and realistically, like, you know, either of them could have won. But like I say, very, very, very impressive. Ridiculous standard. I just unfortunate that it almost, like, I think that's why Lee was saying it on the microphone as MC. How impressive this is to get these people. I think he was trying to sell it to the audience, how, like, this isn't normal. Like, you tend to only get one woman in bodybuilding usually, and a lot of the time they're not of this standard. Because these two are, like I say, if either were to win Pro Worlds, in next weekend, you'd be like, yeah, absolutely, like, that just isn't unheard of. So to say they were both first timers is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, both of these two, as they came out, it's like we both kind of like looked at one another. It was like, wow, like very rare you see two females at great standard like this in ladies bodybuilding. Pamela probably had a touch more muscle, but like Leanne just pipped her on conditioning as well, and both in great condition. And it were very impressive to see. Really impressive to see. And like I say, if you were there at an audience mainly at a show which was mainly a first timer show, the audience probably didn't quite understand like how special it was to see the level of muscularity and condition these two brought. And both rightly so could have probably gone to Worlds. Because yeah, very, very good standard. And impressive to see, and hopefully they carry competing in the future, because both of them can do very, very well on an international stage. So yeah, great class, and rightly so. Lee giving them a shout out, because yeah, it was special to see on a natural bodybuilding stage. Especially with them both being first timers as well. Heaps of muscle, great condition, both pose very well as well. And that brings us on to ladies physique as well, which was Olivia Stevenson. So Olivia Stevenson, she did
Yeah, so we touched on it.
yeah. Yeah, so we touched on her in figure earlier, didn't we? Unfortunately, only just herself in this class. But yeah, impressive physique. Just unfortunate that she was the only competitor in the class, and sometimes you get that, and you can only do and beat who's in front of you at the end of the day. But yeah, rightly so, taking home gold on the day.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I say, yeah, it's unfortunate, but the physique and bodybuilding classes tend to be a little bit underpopulated in the ladies' side of things. And then quick turnaround, and they all came back out for the overall. So Olivia, Leanne, Abby, and Stella. And as you can see, Abby won. And to put it in context of what we were just saying about Leanne, Abby got a unanimous decision from the judges. Like, every single judge voted for her as the overall winner. So that just shows, like, when we were talking about her class, how special and how good she is in terms of, like, her status within the sport and her talent. So to win the overall unanimously against those good class winners is credit to her. So like I said, we touched on it quite a lot, but 2 overalls in 2 shows, and if she does, first PCA Naturals and Fitex next weekend, conceivably could go 4 for 4. And could go 5 for 5 at Worlds should she go to Amsterdam. But yeah, very, very strong overall winner. It was probably between her and Leanne, to be fair. And like I say, to win that unanimously over such a good Leanne. Because again, what we do with the female overall is they judge them against their class criteria. So rather than judge them just against each other as the most muscle and most conditioned, because unfortunately then the bodybuilders should always win because their class is the most muscled and most conditioned of the 4 classes. Like, they judge them. So how would you judge them within their criteria? Who fits their criteria the best? That's the overall winner. And as we said, like, Abby is the epitome of natty figure. Like, shape, structure, condition, level of muscularity. That is, if you were to do like a guide on natty federations oh, how do I fit into the figure criteria? You'd probably put a picture of her and say, that is what we're looking for from a judging panel. Go and do that, basically. So yeah, very, very strong overall winner. And as I say, to be fair, with if Leanne had won it, I think no one would have been too upset realistically.
No, I mean, no arguments with Abby winning this, like best on the day in her category. But yeah, as Finn's mentioned there, like there'd been no arguments at all if Leanne won that, because she was one of the best women bodybuilders I've seen as well, and definitely one of the best in the day. So, but it just goes to show like how much of a standout Abby was, because like in her class up against some great figure athletes, but getting a unanimous decision from the judges in the overall just shows like how good her structure and shape is for Nata figure bodybuilding. So yeah, exciting to see. And also exciting to see if she goes for 4 or 5 for 5 in the future upcoming shows. So go through into the Open Classic, and a returnee is in this class as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, so Open Classic was a bit smaller as a class, but won by even Tanksos or Tanksos. I don't want to get your name wrong, so I do apologise. Sam Lancaster won second place, and then Frank Oshikoya came third. Really good top three. So even is the British 2022 junior champion in bodybuilding. He was the secret prepper, as we hinted at. We actually got it wrong who it was, who me and Luke thought it was. So he was AJ's infamous secret prepper that he hinted at a couple of weeks ago. And quite frustratingly and this just shows the talent of the guy, like he only did an 8-week prep. He was quite lean anyway because he was doing a diet, and he's been running marathons, he's been doing CrossFit, he's been doing basically the hybrid life. So it's almost a little bit frustrating when you're someone like me and Luke, who like we really put a lot into this. And we're not saying it even doesn't take it seriously or anything like that. He's just that talented, that a bit like Huey last year. Like he could just decide, oh, I'll prep in a few weeks, I'll do that show, and he wins an open division and goes to Worlds. It just shows you like how talented he is. Arguably he may not have been his best, fullest self, because obviously quick prep, and obviously with all the running and endurance stuff he's been doing, but he still was very, very good. Still more than capable of placing well at Worlds, and he's very classic. I thought that in 2022 when he won juniors. He had a classic structure then, and he actually went to the Olympia, I believe, that year, and placed top 3, 4, maybe, potentially. I'm sure he did. He definitely went to Europeans and placed highly. But he's very, very good. Intelligent lad as well, as you can see. He's a biomedical engineer, so he's a brain box as well. I don't know if there's how many pictures there are from back then. He's one of them. He kind of hides his bodybuilding efforts a little bit when he's very, very, he shouldn't really, but yeah, even very, very strong. The other two, so Sam and Frank, like they just came up against a guy who's a seasoned pro, let's say, with in terms of he's an ex-British champion. Like, unfortunately, you're gonna struggle to beat someone like that. But like I say, Sam, who was, I think he'd be quite young. Like, he wasn't a first timer, I don't think, but I think he's probably a junior. So I'd have liked to actually have seen him line up in the junior bodybuilding lineup. I might be wrong there, but you looked quite young, Sam, because he was very good. His legs were peeled, like almost painfully peeled. Like you could cross straight, you could see everything in his quads. So that photo there doesn't actually do him justice. And had he done, if he is a junior, had he done juniors, apologise if I'm wrong, Sam. I think you could have done very well in that, because you were very good. You just came up against an ex-British champion, which, you weren't far off, even, to be fair, Sam. And he was very, very good. Another of Chris Chapman's clients. He was very peeled, very well put together, and again on his day, he'd been a good open winner. He was very high quality second place, and then Frank in third. Just he had a lot of muscle. Again, just two better guys on the day, and no issues with it. Like he looked as good as you could probably expect to have prepared for an open show. But this is the open now. It's not first timers. Like this is good standard. Like open classic, open bodybuilding, open figure, open men's physique. Like these are good people and seasoned pros, seasoned athletes. Like they're you know it's a bit unforgiving. So Frank looked very good, a lot of muscle for his frame, and in any other day, he could throw his hat in the ring as a winner. But like I say, even as soon as he walked out, was quite clearly the winner. Very good level of muscularity for quite a tall lad. Tiny waist, big flaring lats, big sweepy quads. Very good condition. He was quite lean, and if he few more pounds off for Worlds, I think he'll be at his all-time best realistically. So yeah, this was a really good top three.
Yeah, good class with this one. As soon as he even came out, it was like knowing from there that like returning British champ in from junior in 2022. Heaps of muscle. I think he's actually done this prep off the back of a mini cut as well. So like hats off to you even. From a mini cut, then into a prep, and yeah, you've got heaps of muscle to do so. And I thought in 2022 you had that classic structure to do very well within the classic division, and rightly so as you've done this after stepping out of the junior classes now and done well here. Clearly the winner on the day, but not to take away from Sam. Sam, great structure, great shape, good amount of muscle, good classic structure for it as well. So rightly, I am not too far off Ivan, but Ivan just had it there. And just had probably more experience just from doing multiple shows and doing international shows in the past. And then Frank, I believe, prepped by Bob Waterhouse. Frank, a lot of muscle, just up against two very good athletes on the day, but rightly so, kind of placing third. And yeah, very good luck and excited to see. I imagine you'll be doing, I think it's his first show of the season. So exciting to see how the season progresses for you as well, Frank. So yeah, very good class in Open Classic. And yeah, some great competitors in that class. Then that brings us on to the big boys in the men's open bodybuilding. Another returning British champion in there as well, of Leon Campbell. But not actually winning the class on the day as well. So we had Nathan Howard just pipping him from there. I'll let you go through the top five as well, Finn, and your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so Nathan came out first and Leon second. So Junaid, he came third. Even came back out. Unfortunately for him, he had to change his trunks really quickly and come and do the open back to back. So I don't necessarily think that affected his placing. If I'm being fair, I think the top three were slightly better than him for this lineup. And then Tom G, who, like I say, I'd given props to in the preview show. As to who I could say is a bit of a dark horse, came out and was very conditioned. You can see there, potentially the hardest of the five. So Tom came fifth, who did Nabe yesterday, and I think he placed top 3 or 4 in Classic. So again, credit to you, Tom. You're having a good season so far. Yeah, it was. Like I say, pre-show favourite probably was Leon. And when he walked out, he's got that physique that you just instantly like everyone in the auditorium is going to look at. Like he's huge. He's got as much muscle mass as you can kind of expect a natty to have on any open stage. Like he is massive, huge arms, huge pecs, massive quads, massive thick back, big glutes. Like you look at him straight away. And with respect, you didn't necessarily pick up on Nathan initially. And then when they did the first call outs, Nathan got moved into centre, and then you started to kind of see him come to life a little bit more. And I think realistically, it was probably just a tiny bit of condition has changed this. But I think that top three could change any other day. It really could, because Junaid in third, so Jay, very good, best he's ever been, best I've seen him. Massive improvements from 2022 season when he made his debut. As I say, very impressive improvements, very good condition, lots of good muscle. And I think he's left potentially touching a tank in terms of he's got more shows, so he's doing naturals PCA next weekend, and he is going to Worlds. They invited all the top three, because obviously this was just an open. There wasn't a height class or weight class, because there was about 11 in this class. And again, I think for time saving, rather than have a short, medium, and tall, or a lightweight, middleweight, and heavyweight class, of which then there might be only like a class of three, and a class of 5, or something stupid. Lee just put them all together and was just like, look, there's a shootout, best man wins. But because I think between the three of them, Leon will be short. I think Nathan is probably a middleweight, and then Jay will be probably in the tall. So, but I think all three have been invited to Worlds. All three have shown intent to do Worlds. That posted saying they're going. So credit to them. Congratulations, lads. It just shows you again at these qualifiers for international shows, as we've said before, just because you don't win doesn't mean you won't be going. So yeah, really good top three who on another day at Worlds could be different. It could be a different, Junaid might win, Leon might win. So I think realistically Nathan just had the balance of muscle and condition on that particular day. But as I say, it could have gone either way. It was very close, to be fair. They did bring Nathan and Leon back out, just them two, as like a confirmation call out, and I think that probably just tipped it, because it was a split decision. And interestingly enough, Nathan, they both did novice in 2022. Leon, as we've said before, won the British title for novice, and Nathan came 6th in that exact same lineup. So it just shows you, 18 months later, they've both had an off season, and Nathan's top the charts this time around, and he's won an open show. So it just shows you that this is why your off season's important, guys. So yeah, massive improvements from Nathan from that 2022 showing. Almost night and day difference. But like I say, it'd be interesting. I think all three are capable of doing very well at Worlds, and we'll be looking forward to seeing their results as they come through. And like I say, Even and Tom in 4th and 5th, very good. But this is the open. Open lineups are good. In other days, they'd be formidable competitors. But like I say, just it was a good top 5, high quality, lots of muscle on there, So it just shows you that this is now the open. Like sometimes the first timers, there might be little bits and bobs in each physique that can be better. Whereas this, like all of the top 5 were well presented, in good nick, lots of good hard muscle on there. That's what you expect in the open. So yeah, a really decent class here. And like I say, good to see people coming back to the stage and showing improvements, because that's what it's all about. It shows that all the off-season work is part of it. So I really do like seeing guys come back after a year, 2, 3, 4 years away and showing massive improvements, because it just shows you that it's, we're all doing that, aren't we? Most of us spend most of our time in an off-season. No one's prepping non-stop, so it shows you it's all worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And 4 out of the fact, well, every single one of these competitors competed before in the past, all returning. 4 out of the 5 returning from the 2022 season. So with an roughly 12, 18 month off season, really. And all made, significant improvements. Leon keeps a muscle, even more muscle than he's had before. Probably not as sharp as he's been before. But yeah, then and rightly so, Nathan just pipping him on the day. Probably just had the best balance with muscle mass, conditioning, and like posing now after competing the seasons beforehand. But goes to show, from going from 6th to then beating the previous British champion who you're up against, like, very good to see. And it's great that people are making these improvements. And then up against like Ivan, who's been at the international stage, not just missing out on the top three in this stage. And then Jay, I think Jay was probably the most it's a toss-up, really, isn't it? Because Jay was massively improved as well. Significant improvements there, but obviously Nathan, in terms of placings, great improvements there. And as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, Tom G with that side chest, that glute to hamstring like separation there, great condition, good amount of muscles, just up against a very, very strong lineup. And yeah, what you expecting, and probably the best way to do it, really, in the men's open bodybuilding, because we've seen previously before, and even last season, where you've had some like shorter classes, like the medium and the tall class, or just having two competitors. But at the end of the day, if you put them all together, you get to see who's the best of the best. And rightly so, and all three of them going to Worlds, and all three of them probably being in different classes, based upon the height. So I think, yeah, rightly done it this way, putting like a bigger class together rather than having shorter classes, and very, very good, outstanding top 5 in the open class.
Yeah, and then into the overall, the as we discussed and has been much publicised already, Jacob, a teen overall, just the second ever in a natural federation's history, obviously after Josh Campbell the previous year. So as the classes went on through the day, we actually kept saying to each other, the team winner's got a shout here. And after every class winner, we were like, because we were kind of thinking where people might be in the overall, like we were like, oh, he's got a good shout, this team. And as you know, we saw he was first call out. He was put centre stage of the overall, and for me, I had it as kind of a 3 to 4 way. I thought him against Jordan Ball, the classic guy. I thought we were the top 2 for the overall. I also personally favoured Nick Richardson, the Masters. I'd have probably had him 3rd or 4th with Sarab. But I thought it was like a 2 to 3 way shootout for the overall. Nathan from Open was put next to Jacob in the middle, so they were kind of comparing him. But I just felt like on the balance of it, Jacob just had the best of everything. He was probably the most balanced. He had the best condition, arguably. He was just he was a standout. Like, he did not look out of place in an overall, and you know, historically, teen winners in overalls tend to like be there for almost kind of like the experience. Like you don't tend to get a second look. But Josh last year and Jacob this year are showing that you can win and you can dominate. And he was I think it was a split decision. I might be wrong there, so apologies if so. But for me, I think on balance, in my opinion, him versus Jordan, he just pipped Jordan. But had Jordan won the overall, I wouldn't have been at all upset or anything like that. Like I say, a very, very good overall winner. And I think we've said a lot, as much as can be said about this guy. He's going to do exceptionally well, and it just shows you that the teen class is getting better and better. And funnily enough, Rob Colley, who was a supporter of this podcast and good friend of ours, he actually kind of put it to me like, what do you reckon? Now teens are winning overalls. Like, should we even forego a teen and junior class and just put them in the open? Because clearly they're good enough. And it's an interesting one because obviously the age categories are there to kind of give experience. And I think they should still keep them because remember, Josh and Jacob are the exceptions. They're not the norm. So if you were to put the other guys from Jacob's class into that open, it could get a bit disheartening because they wouldn't have got a look in with respect to them because they're only young lads on their start of a journey and they're going to be going up against ex-British champions and ex-international athletes. So I think from that perspective, you should always have a junior and a teen lineup because it's how you're building that experience and getting people stage time. So basically, you know, if it was just an open, a team could compete for a decade before we even get first call-outs, but still look good. And I'm not saying people should have participation medals because everyone who knows me knows I'm not about that. At the same time, you know, Jacob and Josh are not normal. And I say that with the nicest intent. So as I say, Jacob is a fantastic overall winner, and to be the second guy in history who's a teen to win an overall, credit to him and Reese, his coach. Like, yeah, he was pretty much, as I say, as the classes kept going, I kept thinking, well, I think Jacob's up there. I think he's got a shout. He's got a shout. And then when they actually came out together, like sometimes, like I said before, the teen guy can be quite outmuscled, and he wasn't. If anything, he was outmuscling several people around him. And yeah, I think on balancing versus Jordan, he probably was just a bit harder than Jordan, and that's probably what tipped it.
Yeah, I mean, as he came out, I think what was impressive was, as funny as it sounds, he almost stood out, or you give him more recognition when he stood out in the overall because of how impressive he was up against these seasoned big guys who are in the open classes with more years on him. But yeah, he would just thought kind of leading into this, like Jordan's would have a shout and also Jacob would. But when you see him stood side by side, and as you do in this photo here, he just sharper. The structure, phenomenal structure there. Doesn't really have much of a weak pose. Posed very, very well. And just overall, just brought the best overall package to the stage, and rightly so. Came away with the overall on the day, which is phenomenal to see. Motivating, but also a little bit disheartening as getting into kind of like later 20s, thinking, oh, teams are winning overalls, but it just kind of shoots a rocket up your ass to make sure you're making the most of your off season. And some of you teens out there who've like been training years, like you could be up there. Like I know it's rare, but it's well, I think it's rare, but it keeps happening. Like year after year, teams are winning overall. So maybe this is a thing of the future. One thing for sure is Jacob is definitely a thing of the future. Um, whether he remains natural or he goes to the assisted side, I'm sure he will do very, very well in either of that. But rightly so, I think just yeah, best overall package on the day, and rightly so, taking the overall and what a shape it was. Um, and yeah, definitely well deserved. I mean that kind of most muscular crab, I've not seen anyone hit a shot like that, but yeah, looks very, very, very impressive there. So yeah, great overall winner of the day with Jacob there. Then
Yeah, so this next class, so it was the first timers in the men's physique half of the show. First, so again, they did it by age. First timers A. This is the last one, unfortunately, we got pictures of because our phones were dying. It was quite a long show. So it's our last one we've got, but we got all the other results, so don't worry. So Emmanuel won the first place. Theo White came second. Adam Rushtamaj came third. Matt Day came fourth. Alex Kachamak came fifth. So we hinted at him on the preview show, and Emmanuel was a very, very clear winner in this one. Just a perfect men's physique shape, good amount of muscle, and very well posed. Like he posed like a pro. Was very good. Very, very strong winner here. With respect to second to fifth place, of whom I think, to be fair, that was quite a close decision, second to fifth. I don't think anyone would have beaten him. And as you can see here, he's got a good pair of quads too. So he's a bodybuilder who also powerlifts, which a lot do. Looking at his profile, and he's only 22, so again, he could potentially be a junior or a junior. I think he's 22. If I've got that wrong, I do apologise. I'm sure his profile said he was. But either way, he's a very, very well muscled, polished pro posing, like at this kind of level, like pretty unbeatable. And along with Jordan in classic, like in terms of potential and going forward in the sport, like he was another gem that's been uncovered. So as I say, very, very good class. And Theo, Adam, Matt, and Alex, as I say, that could have been any way around. In another lineup, all of you, in good shape, well posed, everything like that. I do think ultimately that second to fifth could have gone either way in all of that. But Emmanuel was a clear winner, and he held his own in the overall, actually, which we'll get onto. But yeah, another future star of the sport. And like I say, you almost think, well, his quads, you could see even through his shots. So potentially, could you see him on a bodybuilding or a classic stage at some point in the future? And I think he's more than capable of. He had a lot of muscle, and like I say, pretty unbeatable as soon as he walked out, realistically.
Yeah, I think Emmanuel definitely a standout in this class. Great standard overall though. Very good top five. All like well fit the criteria. Emmanuel heaps of muscle, but like still got a great structure for men's physique. Tiny waist. Great with his abs flex shot as well. Great set of arms, delts, chest. But yeah, as you can see through his shots, like he's got good quads. But as you can see here, his quads were probably just not as sharp as his upper body. His upper body just much sharper through and there. I don't know if that's just based on his training or he prefers the men's physique kind of criteria. But yeah, well deservedly so, winner on the day as well. And I don't think this photo actually gives him justice, but as coming through from here, from like a shape standpoint, he was just very well put together for men's physique. Posed very well. Great back, and yeah, rightly so, the winner on the day. And then through the rest of the competitors, so a few white. I think it was quite close between like the I'd say well from second to fifth really. I think second Theo did well up there. I think probably just edged well quite ahead of the third place, but like from third to fifth was quite close in this class. But yeah, as you've said with Emmanuel, held his own in the overall. And to say these are all like first time competitors, like it just shows the standard of the show, and the standards are just getting better and better as we're going through over the years now. So it's very impressive to see. But yeah, a very good standard in the men's physique first timers A.
Yeah, and then first timers B was won by Reeve Walters. Second was Giovannis Hanadijus. Ali Kilzidag in third. Will Kempford fourth. Ethan Kenny fifth. So, as I say, apologies, we didn't get the photos on the page, but we captured these guys later in as Luke's got up now on like our summary of the ones we missed. So yeah, again, first timers B. So this was like almost the older lot of this first timers lot. So Reeve is actually just a couple along on that one because that's Brad who won the overall men's. If you scroll through those photos, Reeve's photo is on there. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, go. That's him. Yeah. So very tall, but very good quality men's physique shape. Was in good condition. Was a clear winner, I felt, in this class, which was quite a close class, but I felt he was a clear winner. And realistically, like he's what won him was his natural shape and frame. Like he's very much men's physique. You look at him and it was like, yeah, that's men's physique, and that's what held him out. And this was really close class. Like there was a lot of guys on the cusp of the top five who, again, I think probably could have won at any other time. Like, could have cracked a place in. So I think this was one of the closest classes of the day as well. Like I say, Giovannis and Ali in second and third were very decent for first timers. Getting them up now on the reels. So as I say, very good quality class this, and I think realistically, it was a lot closer than Class A. Class A, Emmanuel was just too good. Like I'd say, Giovannis there was in very good shape as well, very lean. But like I say, Reeve just was slightly. He's just got that shape, which on especially at an amateur level, you are going to do a lot better at. Like that can win you the class. It absolutely can. So as I say, that's one of those where as soon as he came out, he hit that first shot, as you see in here. If you watch on YouTube, like that was almost like it. Yeah, class one. Very strong contender. Posed really well. Was quite polished. Like posed. In fact, you could almost if you had not been in the first timers, I'd have thought he'd competed before because he's he was a very, very, very polished poser, very confident, and like I say, so he just shows you, like, if you spend your time learning your craft of posing, it's going to stand you out. And yeah, I think Reeve pretty much in this class was a clear winner in a close class.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, rightly so there. Definitely agree with what you've said. As soon as he's kind of into this front double here, Reeve, he just stood out, small waist. Say lats coming out from there. Good taper. Exactly what you want from a in a natural men's physique class relay. And with this, as you've said, he's like clearly put effort into his posing. I know we've got Kez there commenting on the posing. Not sure if he's took him for any posing coaching, but yeah, definitely had the flow there.
I think he has, yeah.
Yeah, and it pays off because like that could have been what like up against Giovanni's like great physique, but he just edged him on the posing, like how he and just displayed his physique the best way possible. And that's what it's about, not just in men's physique classes, but other classes. Like you can only you're going to get judged on how you display your physique, even if you might be the better athlete. If you don't display your physique as well as others, like you might not place as highly. So put effort into your posing, as we'll move through into towards the women, as we've already said before. They definitely put hours in towards their posing, and it's clear to see when they step through on stage. So yeah, that may be the deciding factor if it's up against it, especially in men's physique when they've got a lot of competitors. It can be quite close due to the amount of competitors there. You can be edged on posing. And that brings us through onto women's bikini after, I believe, Finn.
Yeah, so first timers, a smaller class, so we didn't break these down. I think there was only 6 or 7 in it. Megan Branch won it. Olivia Wakefield came second. Alex Lamerson came third. And this was actually, when they first walked out, this was probably one of the tougher decisions for the judges, because they were everyone, even the ones who didn't place top 3, it was the cliched apples and oranges. I know I've already said that, but everyone had a different strength and everyone had a different weakness. So I think it's what you'd expect from a first timers. No one was fully complete, I wouldn't say. I do think, Megan was a good winner here. But it was a close decision, and Lee did say he said it was a tough one to judge. So to miss out on placing here was not a negative. It was one of those lineups where the same 6 or 7 or 8 girls could compete the next day with a different judging panel, and a different 3 could be the top 3. But yeah, in terms of Megan, I believe she, again, good quality posing probably has held her out here. But all 3 of the top 3 were good posers, so it was a tough one. And I didn't envy the judges having to get this one right. But like I say, I wouldn't have been too upset in terms of the top 3 if they were another way around. But like I say, it just shows you that sometimes, again, when you're talking about the criteria of natty bikini versus kind of PCA or two bros bikini, it is slightly different, like in terms of a level of condition and muscularity. So just be sure to read the criteria and make sure that if you're a coach, your athlete is preparing themselves within the criteria of the federation, rather than just, okay, this is what the IFBB Pro League looks like for bikini, because obviously they're a lot harder than natty bikini girls. So like I say, this was a close contest, but I think realistically, I'd have probably favoured Megan here, as you can see on the screen. But second and third place were very, very good athletes in their own stead.
Yeah, I think you've summarised that well. I mean, like it wasn't exactly like a standout through with Megan there in first place. Like the top 3, very, very good. I think what just edged it for her was kind of like how confident she was with the posing. And it's just displayed her physique the best way possible. And probably on some of them, like everyone had a strength in terms of like each one of the poses, which sometimes quite often is the case. In bikini, like slightly different taper, as you can see through here on Olivia. Same again with Alex. But I think like overall, Megan was probably the most kind of like polished of them all, with hitting up like the mandatories. and how she transitioned into opposing, and rightly so, took first place on the day in the first time as bikini. But yeah, I wouldn't have wanted to be at the judges' table for this one anyway, that's for sure.
Yeah, and then into junior men's physique, actually quite a small class. Sometimes, usually is actually, to be fair, the junior bikini men's physique is not as many. So probably, again, pre-show favourite for this one. Josh Davis won it, who we'd featured from the PCA show the week before. Kevin Chan came second, Blair White came third. Josh was a comfortable winner, in my opinion, in this class, and no, that's not a disrespect to anyone else. Like, he was very, very, very confident, posed well, great condition, and he was probably second place in the overall. Between him and Emmanuel, who lost out in the overall to the Open winner, who we'll get onto. He's very, very good quality, and I don't know if he is going to Worlds, but I would hope he is, because he will be very good as a junior men's physique. Like, pretty much the epitome of, he's got that shape, got the frame, got the posing. Like, he is men's physique, and with a tiny bit more muscle, he's a men's physique natty pro. I'm very confident in saying that. So yeah, a clear winner here. And his posing confidence just isn't testifies to he's already been on stage before. So I don't believe, because he was a junior lineup, not doesn't always mean they were first timers. Because that was this show, it was a first timers and like open show. So the age categories don't have to be first timers. So yeah, Josh's experience showed through here. But second and third place were strong, strong guys. It was just one of those where we came up against a very good winner. Kevin here again, good frame, good shape. I think he may have. I might be wrong here. Apologies if so. I don't know if he did a class earlier in the day. He may have done classic. Apologies if not, but yeah, really good frame here and post well. Can't complain there. And Blair, who I recognise his name, so I'm sure he's potentially competed before, unless he's got a similar name to someone. But yeah, I think he may have competed before somewhere. But again, good quality junior men's physique. It was a strong top three. Like, it was just Josh was a decently amount, stood out compared. But the other two were very, very decent within the top three, and I wouldn't have complained had second and third been either way around. But these were pretty clear in there being a top three. It was a pretty good standard to say it was a smaller class.
Yeah, as you said, good standard to say we're a smaller class. I think Blair came out like great structure, great shape for it, posed very well. It definitely looks familiar. It definitely looks as if he's been on a bodybuilding stage before. Because he looked like hit his poses very, very well. Looked confident in most of them as well. Then Kevin Chan had a bit more muscle than Blair, I would say. And then, yeah, I'd say quite a clear winner with our first place with Josh Davis. Just best overall package. Very confident up on there. Had the men's physique flow, had the men's physique structure. And I think, yeah, with a bit more muscle in the years to come, I think he'll definitely be up there as a natty men's physique pro for sure. Great conditioning, great package overall.
Yeah, and then into the Masters Bikini. Won by Ellen Manning, Michelle Pace came third, and Kirsty West, as you can see on the screen here, came third. And Ellen, really good, really stand out, I thought. Almost on the cusp, I'd say, with a condition particularly of almost could have dropped into figure. Maybe a bit more muscle would be needed to do that, but as you can see here, she was very lean for Natty Bikini. Probably on, like I say, could have potentially, I'd like to see her hit some figure poses. Maybe if her quads were a touch bigger, but I think she could have transitioned into figure. Certainly Masters figure, but very good condition, good amount of muscle for bikini. Probably just about as much muscle as a Natty Fed would want on bikini. So yeah, really impressive here, and she was a clear clear standout within the overall. Did lose out again to the Open competitor who was just better on the day, but she wasn't a million miles away in the overall, in my opinion. Anyway.
Yeah.
So as I say, this was quite a good quality first place. Michelle again, good shape there, as you can see, just wasn't as big as Ellen at all. So that's probably what's pipped her on the day, and then third place, third place Kirsty, as we saw a minute ago. Good. Second and third place were probably quite close, and the winner was a decent standout. But as I say, Masters Bikini, a bit of a smaller class again, tends to be, but he produces a pretty decent top three, like I say, as Kirsty there. So yeah, I think Ellen was quite a good quality standout winner. And again, don't know if she is going to Worlds, but you could imagine if she does, she will do very well. And I think realistically, I don't know if she has aspirations to, but I think with an off season could come back as a figure girl quite comfortably and do very well.
Yeah, I think overall it was a good standard, to be fair, even with it being a smaller class. But like for Masters Bikini, quite a good standard. I think even like Michelle in second place, very, very, very good as well. For Masters Bikini, good shape, good level of condition, and then even Kirsty in third place as well. Good shape there through for it. But I think Ellen Manning, just with the condition, shape, structure overall, just clear winner on the day. But yeah, rounding off like a good class, especially for Masters compares. And as you've said with Ellen, I think she'll do very well if she does go to the goes to Worlds and gets on an international stage. So yeah, exciting to see for sure.
Yeah, so Masters men's physique. Biodun Oganyemi won. Dan Story came second, and Mark Stevenson came third. I think again, Biodun, very, very clear winner in my opinion. Actually, was really good for Masters men's physique, because sometimes this class can be a little qualify level can be a little bit lower standards sometimes, and then finals usually produces one or two really good guys. But Biodun, hope I'm pronouncing that right, by the way. Really, really good standard, I thought, and will more than hold his own on an international stage should he carry on. Really, really good level of muscle, very good condition, and like I say, this was a clear winner in my perspective from second and third. So again, it's just with both Masters Bikini and Physique, the winners were quite clear. Posed well, presented well, good condition. That's what wins you these shows. So yeah, he was a pretty good level for Masters Men's Physique. It wasn't a million miles away in the overall. It was actually a really good overall, because all of the class winners were good. But the Open winner, who we'll touch on very, very soon, was a cut above, to be fair to him. And second and third place were just good, both good. Dan, I recognise his name. I believe he's competed before. I definitely recognise that name from somewhere. And like I say, good level of muscle, just wasn't quite on Biodun's level. But again, good posing, good shape. No, can't really complain there. I think again on the day, just a slightly better athlete won. Whereas he's probably very happy with everything he's brought to the stage. That happens. Competitive bodybuilding, someone slightly just better. But yeah, a decent second place, and then Mark in third. Again, taller guy, so a bit harder to fill these frames out. But he was pretty decent. And realistically, when it comes to being a taller person, sometimes, as we saw with Reeve in the first timers, it can stand you out if you've got the big delts and the flaring lats and the small waist. It can actually be a bonus to be quite tall in men's physique, because it can accentuate your shape, so to speak. And I think that's what got Mark third place here over the other guys. So yeah, it wasn't a bad top three for the Masters, which is usually a bit of a smaller, like same with Bikini, they're usually smaller classes. But yeah, Biodun was quite an impressive winner here.
Yeah, I think Bjorn was definitely a standout there. As soon as he comes out and hits it a shot, great amount of muscle, great condition, and just yeah, just fit very very well in the class as well. And yeah, like rightly a standout in this class, like in all the shots, even like with his back, his erectors, and don't get me wrong, like Dan Story in second and Mark in third have a good amount of muscle, good midsections on them, just not up to the it's not up to there on Bjorn at all. And rightly so, he looked very well, he did very well like in the overall. He didn't look like as if he shouldn't be in the overall. He was definitely up there for it. So he was just up against very good athletes for the other two guys on the day, unfortunately. Now we're moving through. We had this is the first time we've actually had this, so it's interesting to see how they will kind of like structure it, or what the criteria set out is going to be for natural wellness. So we had just smaller class, which is kind of expected for the first time. The UKDFBA have done this, but look to have like a decent standard through of at women's wellness. So go through that. So we had Paige, who was the winner of the day in women's wellness, Paige Skidmore. Um, so yeah, had a good amount of muscle mass, and based on the criteria, slightly different to what you'd expect in women's wellness at like IFBB level, but like good amount of lower body development, quads, glutes, hamstrings. Expect to kind of like a smaller waist into like a smaller upper body. So slightly different towards say bikini and so with there. And then Sophie Gibb in second. So still there with a good amount of lower body muscle mass. Probably just not as sharp as the winner on the day, but both had like a good amount of muscle mass there. And yeah, I imagine this is going to get a popular kind of class as it goes over the years, same as like men's physique and women's bikini has. And it's another realm into kind of growing natural bodybuilding. Anything to add on that, Finn?
Yeah, as we thought it would be, not when he did it, because obviously it's new. So I think this season people are going to I think a lot of girls are going to kind of see the lay of the land, and then next year I reckon numbers will be up, or even maybe later in this year with a few more months of the show seasons to go. More people might tend to lean towards doing it. So it's almost like a trial this year because it's one of the classes we haven't done before, but Worlds with the PNBA do it. So Lee's obviously decided to throw that in to give more opportunities. And as we know, it's very popular on the assisted side of things. And it's probably becoming like the classic of female classes, isn't it? In terms of most lads these days want to do assisted classic bodybuilding, and most girls like the wellness look, don't they? So yeah, we don't really know quite yet what the judges are going to favour. Are they going to favour the shape, or are they going to, if you're the most conditioned, will you get it? So we need to see a few more shows of it to kind of get a lay of the land of what is a judge going to appreciate. Like we know in bikini, if you're very, very, very shredded, you might actually get moved to the side over a girl who's a little bit softer who's got more of that natural shape. And we know in figure you definitely are. So be interested to see where we go. I will say, like, I can't see that you're going to get many natural girls who are going to have that massive disparaging between the lower body and the upper body because, unfortunately, dare I say it, within wellness, like, it's not all, but a lot of that is down to assistance use to get those huge legs and glutes and then really tiny upper body. I just don't think we're going to get the same level of differentiation between lower and upper without the use of like peds. But like I say, both Paige and Sophie look good for like they're kind of the trendsetters, the trailblazers, the first ever natty UK wellness class that's ever been done. So I think they both present themselves very well, but we'll yet to see kind of what the judges kind of really want from a criteria because we haven't got a UK kind of standardization. Obviously, we have it at Worlds, so we'll be interested to see how if Paige goes to Worlds, if she's been selected, how she stands up amongst like the world level athletes, and then going from there, they might say, "Yeah, this is kind of what we want. We want a bit of a more conditioned looks." Like you say, between the two of them, Paige was a little bit harder, and that was probably the difference on the day.
So, and then we're into junior bikini. Were they just the two?
Yeah, so they did it as a both together.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
So like, I think there was one. I think there was only one big junior bikini because unless the NBW missed out because I think so they just put them all in one. So Lacey Collins won open bikini and she won the overall. Abigail Thompson came second, and Georgia Wisely, who we featured earlier in the season with her partner Connor, she came third, which was a really good result for her. So Lacey was the overall winner and a pretty standout winner. She's actually a very accomplished runner, as we featured when I did her overall post the other day. Marathon, half marathon, 10, like really, really good quality runner. And does both. So again, a hybrid, dare I say it. And she was a clear overall winner as well. Probably between her and Ellen, as I said. Posed very well and good condition. And I think, judging on a profile, she was very surprised at this win. Like, it was a very a coach, Michael, he put a little shout out for so I appreciate that on our podcast page. Like, he shared the post and put a bit of a story saying like he really instilled some belief in her, because I think she really didn't believe that this and then she's come and taken an overall, and quite clearly too. So won the open, won the overall. Like I say, Abigail and Georgia, very good. I think probably both were technically juniors. Were just lacking a little bit of the muscle that Lacey had, but both presented very well. Both had good shape. We knew Georgia would be up there. She's got very good bikini shape in terms of her frame and structure. Just lost on muscle mass a little bit, but being a junior, that's kind of expected. Against a woman who's obviously got a few more years in the gym on her, which, as I say, I see Georgia said she's going into an off season with Connor, so when she comes back, she will do well. And it'd be interesting to see if Lacey goes to Worlds, given that she's a woman of many talents, because obviously she runs, as I say, and does a lot of other bits and bobs within fitness. I don't know if she is going to Worlds. I've not managed to speak to her or message her about it. But if she was to, I think she'd do very, very well. Like I say, she was a clear winner on the Open and the overall. And like I say, the overall did have a couple of very, very good quality bikini girls within it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was a good top three. Lacey, rightly so, probably the most muscled out of three on the day. All three of them had great shape for bikini though. And as we featured before, obviously Georgia on our page, got the great shape for it, just beaten by girls with more muscle than her on the day. I'd actually say she's probably up there with probably the most shapely of them, but just doesn't have the same experience in the gym as the other two girls. And there with Abigail just up against a very good Lacey Collins, and it goes to show these hybrids in this in some of the divisions, it can just work for them. And brought a good level of conditioning, and yeah, overall best package on the day went to Lacey.
Yeah, and last but not least, the Open men's physique. Bradley Cox-Edge won it. Gilberto Roca came second. Jamie Butwell came third. Johnny Clough came fourth, and Robbie Arney came fifth. Very, very, very good winner. Brad, now, as good as Jacob was for the overall, Bradley may just be as, if not more impressive as an overall men's physique winner. Like, he's one of the best natty men's physique athletes I've ever seen. Genuinely ever seen. And there's been some good ones, and we've got some really good pros from this country. He is as good as any men's physique athlete we've ever produced. You can see from this video here, if you're on YouTube, that is men's physique to a T. Huge arms, great pecs, big delts, big wide back, tiny waist, good oblique, shredded abs, poses, you know, like an absolute pro. He's a pro in weighting. He's won quite a few titles. He's a very seasoned competitor. He's won overall shows in the PCA a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. So he's been around the block, and I think he's still only 26, 27. And he doesn't post a lot about his fitness side of things, which he should, because he's a fucking great athlete. He's one of the finds of this show, in my opinion. He's one of the he's like I say, I would put him on a level of Jacob in terms of like talent wise. Like I say, I know Jacob was like a first timer and like a new superstar, but Brad, I don't know where. Like you say, I don't know your intent for the rest of the season. I truly hope you go to Worlds, because you could win Pro Worlds. I like that comment there. So there's a comment here, if you're not watching on YouTube, from Nicola, who is one of the trophy presenters, who's a PNBA pro. Someone shouted out, this guy is quads for arms, and he did. He's massive, huge arms. Would be at place at home, sorry, on an open stage. So again, unfortunately for Gilberto and Jamie, second and third, like, who were very good. This was arguably the class of the show. Like Rob Yanni, who came fifth, like, or fourth, he's won an overall. Johnny Clough has come top 3 at British before. They came fourth and fifth. Guys who've won British titles, like, are not even winning this class. There are guys who've come top 3 in British level before, weren't even in the top 5. This was probably the best class of the show, and maybe the best men's physique class that's ever been. Like, Jamie here has won overalls in previous years. I think he even won this NBW overall 2 years ago. I'm sure it's him. Gilberto, shredded. Very good, but Brad is that good. Like I said, he could even be the best UK natty men's physique currently operating. It's a big shout, and I don't want to upset anyone by saying that, but that's how good this guy is. Like, he is almost flawless. You know, I know Lee can't give out pro cards, but you almost feel like Lee could have and should have given this guy a pro card just on how good he was. Like I say, even though it wasn't a pro qualifier, like, that's how good he was. You almost like, look, he's too good. Like, he shouldn't be an amateur. Get him in the pro ranks at Worlds, and he probably will win that. So I hope he does do Worlds, because, like I say, he was a standout, and he, like I say, still very young, got lots of years left ahead of him, and as he's shown, could easily win assisted shows quite comfortably, still as a natty. So yeah, Brad was one of the standouts, if not the standout athlete of the entire show.
Yeah, I'd probably say overall, especially for his class, like, standout of the day. Like, men's physique down to a T. Every shot, like, just phenomenal. Heaps of muscle, well balanced with condition, good level of fullness, great separation, great lines, like, tiny waist, huge back, and like thick back as well. Like, every shot, every transition was just hit well. You can see that he's been on stage before. Great flow, great stage presence, like, exactly what you want. He almost looks like a seasoned pro. So yeah, it's right with what you're saying. Like, oh, just give this guy a card. As much as it's not a pro qualifier, he was just heaps above the other 2 guys, and even like Gilberto here, he actually did WNBF last year, and great. Like, he's looked even sharper since then. He was great then, and I think he came 3rd at the Supernaturals last year. And I visited the show with Josh Bogdani, and he was actually doing. I don't know who he had for like posing coaching at the time, but I think he was in the wrong class, because he was actually hitting his side poses as quarter turns, as a bodybuilder. But he was that good then that he still managed to come 3rd on the day. And I believe Johnny Clough was at that show, might have been 2nd, or he was in the top 5 anyway. Great compare, competes all the time, Johnny Clough, and still didn't quite make it into this top 5. It just shows the standard that there was there on the show. And then Robbie Arney, who's won multiple overalls before, as well as Jamie Butwell here. Very, very good class. Probably one of the classes of the day, if not the class of the day. Everyone there had great structures for it, great conditioning. Gilbert are probably the most peeled like midsections I've seen, but just didn't have the same muscle mass there as Bradley, which leads us through onto the overall, and it's clear, really, clear standout overall. Bradley taking that on the day, and it'd be one of them who would probably go to Worlds, and you think like, yeah, this guy's probably up there with being up there with Pro Worlds and taking home that title as well. He is just that good, and I don't think there were no arguments there. I think it was probably a unanimous decision with just how good Bradley was on the day.
Yeah, absolutely. What with respect and the other guys in the overall, it was a strong overall. They didn't get a sniff. They didn't get a sniff. He was that good, cut above. But like I say, he's another phenom. Like he's too good for amateur level. I'll happily say that, and that's with respect to everyone else who he came up against on the day. So a long day for him because they were last on. It was quite a late finish. But it just shows you that save the best for last. So sometimes it's worth sticking around if you're watching these shows because some of these athletes are exceptional. So yeah, it was a really good show. We both really enjoyed it. Apologies, obviously it's been a long episode, but we wanted to get everything in. So maybe in future we might break this down into 2 parts for some of the bigger shows. But it was a big show. It's probably one of the biggest we're going to go to. Of the entire year in terms of number of athletes, but we wanted to give everyone a shout out because obviously that's what this podcast is about. It's not just if our clients have been in it, let's talk about them, or it's not just, oh well, he's got followers, let's just talk about him, and then don't talk about anything else. Like we want to try and be as fair and balanced as to everyone, and obviously what we saw, and to give exposure. So yeah, really enjoyed being there, and I've enjoyed going through it again. Really good standard, like I say, some future superstars, some future guys who, in years to come, we might be saying, "Oh, remember when so and so did his first ever show at the NBW, and now they're on the Olympia stage, or now they're a WNBF, World Pro titleist, or they've won that Olympia, or they've won X, they've won Y, they've won Z. They're now a fully established pro within a federation. Like this is where their journey could have started. So yeah, very quality show. Really enjoyed being there as part of it, and looking forward to doing more as this podcast.
Yeah, I think it was great show, great standard, and it was a great way to wrap things up with with 2 very good overalls, with both the bikini and the men's physique, which was probably one of the standouts of the day. Thoroughly well ran, and I think I quite liked how they put obviously the Class A and the Class B's together, mixing the heights together, some bigger classes rather than just like. I mean, I know there was one class with just one competitor, but overall, as a whole, there were some good big classes, which just brought a good standard towards the stage. And yeah, it's good to see it, especially for some first-time competitors. And it's if you guys are out there in your off season now, make sure you're putting in the work and improving because everyone else is, and the standard just continues to grow and improve. So yeah, very exciting and a great way to kind of kick off the natty season. And the next show we've got coming up is the PCA Naturals, which we're both will be at. So yeah, excited for what's to come on that, and then Worlds in 3 weeks' time. So yeah, as Finn's pointed, apologies if this one's a bit of a lengthy one. We just wanted to give everyone their rightly shout out, but we can look in future to kind of like split this into 2 episodes. But yeah, that's a wrap from us. Hope you've enjoyed this one. Hope like I say, if you're featured on this, hopefully you've got your rightly shout out and you've had a listen through to that. And yeah, we've not kind of done anyone too harshly or so that's not our intentions at all. But yeah, we appreciate you all for listening, for watching as well. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, and we will catch you in the next one, guys. Peace.